Hey everybody, it's Dana and welcome to the Encouragement Card Hop featuring products from Pink and Maine. So let's get started. I am so honored to be joining all the lovely creative people on this inspirational hop. And I'm going to be using some new products from Pink and Maine. This one is called Toucan Do It. It's a super adorable set that was just released this July. To be a part of this hop, it really is mind-blowing, the talent that I have seen from some of the artists on this hop. And for me to be a part of it, to help encourage anyone and everyone, is just a dream come true for me. I think encouraging each other is what makes our life beautiful. I'm going to be using two inks here, and these are by Gina because I want to stamp out a quick background. Now, using smaller images, it's really great to reach out of your comfort zone and create different patterns to use with your card making. So as you can see here, I'm starting with this gorgeous leaf and I'm just going to stamp it randomly down on the paper. Now, what's so great about having an open image like this is you can stamp it on top of each other, side by side, and it's always going to look good. So this ink, I believe it's called Key Lime, but I'll make sure to have all the products linked down below. And I wanted to have two shades of green. Anytime we are looking at nature, no color is exactly just one color. There's always several shades in flowers as well as leaves. So make sure to mix up your color palette. You can do two shades of a color and it really makes your card have a nice pop to it instead of being like almost like a one layer. So now I'm coming in, I believe this was grass green. And as you can see, I'm stamping right over that lighter color. And that's going to give me a little bit more definition in this project, but it's also going to allow me to have some visual interest. So when you're mixing your colors, make sure to mix colors that are harmonious with each other because usually that's exactly what we see in nature. As I go through this process, I'm just going to stamp down again those leaves in a random order, but then I'm going to bring in my die cut. This is the Stitch Dies by Pink and Maine, and I want to make sure that I'm going to have that center area covered with all the palms. So I'll go back in and fill in some of those spaces. Now, if you wanted some more areas to be a little bit spark or a little bit more white, then just don't stamp as many and do make sure to rotate your image. Again, that's going to give it a nice visual appeal. Now, since I have all of my images done, and you can really see by adding those two different shades, it really brings this background to life. I'm going to line up my stitch die exactly where I want it and just make sure I fill in any open areas that are just a little bit too white or too stark for me. Now, since I have that done, I can go ahead and line up this die, and this is going to frame this out nicely, but it's also going to give it a little stitched border. I'm making sure to use some purple tape because I don't want this to shift. And then I can go ahead and run this through my die cutting machine. This is an easy way to create your own paper. If you don't have a paper that is really working for your project, make your own. Use those smaller stamps and make your own. Now, since I ran it through my die cut machine, I can go ahead and pop that out and look how pretty this looks. It looks great with those two shades of green. Now I am going to be adding a black sentiment to this card. So I do want to add just a touch of black to this card panel. Very easy way is to just take a black multi-liner pen and do a couple of doodles. You can do circles, you can do hearts. It's endless what you want to do, and that's going to fill in some of those open white spaces that you still might have, but also just give a visual contrast. Just make sure if you're using hearts or you're using circles like I am to kind of vary the dot size or vary the design size, unless you're going more for a vinyl look where you want everything to be the same size. I just choose to add a little bit more visual interest by just filling in those areas in different sizes. Now, again, this is totally optional. You do not have to do this. But for me, sometimes if I have areas that I'm just feeling need a little bit of something, I will either splatter paint on it to give myself a nice splattered look. If not, I just grab my multi-line pen and do a little bit of doodling on that background. All right, so now this is done and we need to color up an image. I am coloring this so adorable image. And this again is from the Toucan Do It stamp set. I believe this is a sloth, which is so super cute. He's going to be hanging off of some of my vines. I will pull out my Memento Tuxedo Block ink and stamp this down on Copic friendly paper. Now I use Copic Express paper. I just find that I get better results with that. But if you have another paper, go for it. I'm just going to wipe off the edge of that little branch because I'm going to want to extend that branch out a little bit later in the video. So I just want to make sure like my branch doesn't have an ending point. I'm using my Pink and Main acrylic block, which I love because I love the little grooves in it where I can really like get a good grip. And I was able to stamp that out perfectly. Again, you don't see the end of that image, and I'll be able to extend that out a little bit later. I'm going to keep my card very clean and simple in my coloring today. I really want the focus to be on those beautiful leaves, but I also want you guys to see my coloring process. So I did speed this up a little bit. It did not take me very long to color this, but I'm just coloring my sloth in with some brown shades. Now I did Google the colors of a sloth, but I'm pretty sure you can make them, gray or brown shades. Really, if you want to make them purple, it's totally up to you. This is your sloth. You do it your way. I'm just trying to keep mine a little bit closer to nature since I'm not having a lot of color on this card. And I will be sure to link the colors that I used below. But again, they're just nice shades of brown. I think I used 33 and 35 for my little sloth. And then his little nose part, I believe it was 50 and 53. Just keeping that nice light color. And then again for my branch, I used a couple darker colors of brown. And for his little cheeks, I used R20. Again, you can make this any color you like, and it will actually be gorgeous if it was watercolored. So keep that in mind as well. You do not have to use Copic markers. If you like color pencils, if you like alcohol markers that aren't Copic markers, or if you like to watercolor, go for it. It's totally up to you. As you can see, I extended out that area, and now I'm just drawing in that same black design. Super, super easy to extend a smaller stamp anytime you need it. Just make sure to use the process I showed a little bit earlier. All right, now since this sloth is colored and he's super, super adorable, I really feel like I need to have a name for this guy. I'm going to grab the matching die for this. Now the dies are sold separately, but they make it so easy to die cut out your images. I'm going to line this one up, but remember, I'm not going to be cutting that area at the bottom. So I'm going to show you how to kind of extend that part out when you die cut. So again, I'm grabbing some of that purple tape, and that's just going to allow this die cut to stay in place. Now, in order for me not to cut that end, I have to sandwich this a little bit differently. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my mat, and this is my cutting mat, and I'm going to place that on so that little piece right there is not in the area of being trimmed. First, I do just need to trim down this cardstock that I'm working with. It's a little bit too big for me to show you. So I'll move that out the way, and now I can line this up. So anything that's on the top of that cutting plate is not going to be cut. So if you have any kind of die that you want to extend that die out a little bit, just make sure the area is off the plate when you cut. Now I will go ahead and line up my mat. And as you can see, that pink part is hanging out. That is not going to be cut. So I'm just going to make sure I'm straight on this, and then I can put down that mat again. Again, seeing the pink areas hanging out, I can go ahead and run that back through my die cutting machine. All right, so now that this is all trimmed out, I'm going to go ahead and pop that off, and you'll see that this is still attached to the paper. So now I can extend that cut out to get more of that branch. I'm just going to grab a pair of scissors. And these are like spring action scissors, which I really, really love. They're my favorite. And I'm going to trim around that extra area, right around that leaf. And then I can extend out my tree stem, my little tree branch. So I'll trim that off, and then I can come right around the edge of that, trim it where I want it, and I'm going to trim it right where my coloring stops. I'm going to arc it just a little bit and then work my way right back around to that other side. And then I can marry up those two lines, the one that was created with the die cut and the one I'm creating with my scissors. So I just work my way back up, and now you can see it's mostly cut out. I just need to go right around that little piece there. And now I have an image that is longer than what it was. It's a great tip anytime you're using your dies and you can extend them out a little bit to just conform more to what your design in your card is. It's a perfect win-win for having the dies. All right, now since this little guy is done and he has the branch long enough, we can figure out where we want to put him on the card. Now, by me extending that out just a little bit, it allows me to have a little bit more of that branch. But I do want to add a sentiment to this card, and I need a background. So I pulled out my Back to Basics paper, and this is also from Pink and Main. And I like this paper because it's double-sided, and then it also has two designs. We have the lines across pattern, and then we also have a large circle. I'm going to use the large circle today because I think that will work very pretty with the background that we've already created with the leaves. And again, I have several shades of green here, but they work perfectly together. Once I kind of have that lined up of where I want it, I'm going to bring in a larger stitch rectangle die from that same die set that I used to cut down my little leaf piece. I'm going to grab my purple tape again and go ahead and die cut this out. Now remember, don't get rid of the scraps of your paper. They are perfect for little banner strips or if you just want a little piece of color on a card. So don't ever go throw those away. The smallest of pieces can make a difference on your card making. All right, now since I've run that through, I have a great background. And as you can see, I can pull all this together and look how gorgeous it looks. That pop of black lines up perfectly with the black that's in my image. To adhere this, I'm going to use some small square foams and attach this little guy onto my card panel. I did want him to be raised up just a little bit, but I'm going to keep the rest of the card kind of flat. I just want him to have a little bit of dimension. Once this is complete, I can go ahead and put my card together. I really am glad that you guys had a chance to stop by today. And don't forget, a little hello, a wave, a smile to a person can really change their day. I love talking to friends. I love meeting new friends, and it's a great way to encourage. You can also find time to do a little bit of volunteering if you can. Volunteering has a way to change one's life. Now, if you don't have the time to do it, I volunteer my cards. I make several cards and I give them to a senior organization. And so far this year and last year, I believe I've given them over about 200 cards so far. And I'll have more to give them around the Christmas holiday. I'll go ahead and peel off all the backing. And now I can put my little sloth down. And he's so cute. So adorable. All right, and now we can go ahead and start finishing up our cards. Make sure to hop around to all the beautiful people on this blog hop. It is amazing. The cards that people have made, the generosity of their time to share their designs with you is something I love. I'll be hopping along and saying hello to everyone on the hop. Make sure you do that and make sure to leave a comment. Leave a comment on our blogs, also here on our YouTube channels. It's nothing more better than us crafters supporting each other. All right, I'll go ahead and place that down. And now this part is done and I only need to get it onto a card base. For my card base, I use Neenah Solar White 110-pound card base. That's like my go-to card base. And I'm just going to adhere this down with my ATG gun. Now the encouragement card hop is going to be packed with inspiration. If you see something that you like, go ahead and put it into your playlist. So you'll have it for a little bit later if you need a little bit more inspiration when you're crafting. All right, I have that down. And now again, I need a sentiment to put on here. I'm going to use a sentiment from that stamp set, that Toucan Do It stamp set. And I went ahead and stamped and heat embossed it in black onto that same piece of paper, that polka dot paper. Remember I said, right? Don't throw out those scraps. So you can see how tiny this piece is, but it allows me to have consistency in my design. I put a few of those square foam dots on there, and then I can go ahead and place this down. Now you can see why I wanted the black dots on here, because it kind of brings all that black together and it plays very nicely. I do want to add a couple of enamel dots. So I have some older ones here, and I believe this is from Doodlebug. And I'm just going to place one at the top of this panel and then one at the bottom. And that, you guys, is the card for the encouragement card hop. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. Please feel free to like and share this video. Also leave a comment, and you can find me right here on all of my social media. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me, and I'll see you in another video soon. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.